Call the informational meeting for Article 11 revote. The select board has warned an article. The election is next Tuesday. This is the informational meeting on that article. You want to start, Nick, or?
Yes, I want to just unmute myself and then.
Yeah, and then you mute yourself.
Yeah.
How do I do that?
If you go on your screen right here and click your mute button.
Nick, we can hear you just fine in the other microphone.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me? I just get to. How about now? Nope.
We're getting a strange feedback, Nick.
Just use the original computer and turn your volume down.
Okay, Nick, try to talk now.
Through his computer. Online.
You're through mine.
Okay. So can those online, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'll just kind of read what we had in the town report for Article 11 originally. The Washington Select Board is asking voters to consider switching the role of town treasurer from an elected to an appointed position. This is because the treasurer position has grown in complexity and the work requires more time to accomplish. The town has had to increase the hours of our assistant town clerk to assist with the growing financial workload. The Select Board also hired Sullivan & Powers, an accounting firm out of Montclair, to assist the town clerk with treasurer duties. Unfortunately, even with these changes, our town clerk is working an average of 60 hours per week to keep up with the demands of the town clerk / treasurer position. In consultation with the town clerk, the Select Board believes that Washington would be better served by appointing a firm or certified individual to serve as our treasurer and handle the town's finances. In recent years, many Vermont towns have moved towards this option because of the increased demands of the treasurer's positions. We believe that this decision will result in greater efficiency and transparency in handling the taxpayer dollars. So you want to open it up to questions?
Open it up to the floor.
Should I turn it around when people ask?
Yeah.
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Okay. Sheila Duranlo, taxpayer in Washington. I've been following this situation closely for the last couple of months now. And I think it's my opinion that having one person hold all three of these offices is just unrealistic this day and age. That would mean that if the person was only working 40 hours a week, they'd be devoting 13 hours to each of the positions, the treasurer, the town clerk, and the delinquent tax collector. That probably isn't enough time for those positions. They are pushing the hours, as Nick said, over 60 hours a week for somebody to be working. That's too much for a person to be working, and some of the work is not getting done. In the last town, the annual report, we didn't have a budget that the select board felt confident in. And to me, that's a pretty serious thing that a select board would put that in a town report. We don't have information on delinquent taxes that are collected. So I don't feel like we have credible financial information about the health of this town. And as a taxpayer, I think that it's not unreasonable for me to be concerned about that. So I ask people to support this article to relieve the burden of all of these three positions from one person who has said that it's overwhelming. and that she really can't and doesn't want to do all of these. So that's where my vote is going to be, and I ask you to vote that way as well.
Which is yes.
Yes, vote yes on Article 11. Yeah, that can be confusing. So
That's the
yes,
big question.
vote yes on Article 11, please.
Point of order, delinquent tax collector is not part of this discussion.
Yes,
Is that
that's true.
correct?
Well, that's
Shouldn't have
correct.
been
It's
brought
all,
up.
well, that's correct. It's also reported to the town treasurer for 15 days of
We're
the,
voting on this. I thought we were
Correct.
gonna limit our discussion to what's on this piece of paper.
and I'll answer that, Brooke. So yes, you're right. It's not the delinquent tax collector position, but within 15 days of taxes going delinquent, which was November 15th, treasurer is required by law to provide a list of all the taxes that went delinquent. And we haven't got that. I believe there's a public record request in the process, and that still hasn't been fulfilled. This is that's kind of one of my big sticking points. We bill out $3 million in taxes every year. We have to bill out all the school taxes. And the burden of delinquent taxes falls on the town. The school always gets their money. So the school got their $2.5 million, and the rest is for Washington. Carol has informed me that she believes about 10% has gone delinquent. 10% on $3 million is $300,000. We have a $700,000 budget. That's kind of a big deal, and we're just finding out about this now.
But for how many years? How many years has the same, is there a pattern? Did you get one last year, Nick?
No, we didn't get a delinquent tax report last
Because I
year.
haven't seen one in the book for, it's been like 3 years. The last I saw was like 247 or something like that. And it was equal to the sum of our debt for like whatever we've taken out for taxes or, to buy stuff for the town. It was equal to the delinquent taxes.
And
So
and
it's only gone up.
well, to Brooke's point, like this isn't to discuss the delinquent tax position. It's that the recording of the delinquent taxes is what we don't know.
Right, well, it's because none of the bookkeeping is like actually being done. It was just pencil whip to this point.
Well, but that's my point, is that having one person hold all three positions. And so this is connected to the discussion about the treasurer. Having one person hold all three positions is just too much for them to do, to help us feel confident about the job that they're doing in keeping the records about the financial health of the town. So to me, they're connected, even though that's not what we're voting on today.
They don't hold all three positions, or sorry, two.
There's
There's
two
only two
positions.
positions.
Town clerk, treasurer,
Right.
delinquent tax collector.
And,
I know,
Positions.
but
and
tonight it's only two positions.
Yes,
the one thing I will add to that, so I kind of, since this has gone on, I did a little homework. The town of Orange has 3 separate positions. The town clerk works 40 to 45 hours a week. The treasurer works 3 days a week, and the delinquent tax collector works 1 day a week. We combine all those into one position.
Overwhelming.
yes.
So Nick, when people are speaking, we can't really tell. I heard Sheila and she was introduced, but the other people that were speaking, I couldn't tell who they were.
Somehow.
If people would just say, introduce yourself, I
Right.
guess.
State your name.
Okay.
And just so everybody knows who I was, that was Jim Donovan asking that question. Could I ask another question?
Go ahead, Jim.
So for some of us that maybe not at the town clerk on a daily or weekly basis, didn't understand who made the motion and what was the history that meant that Article 11, when it first got voted on and approved, that it had to be reviewed. So if there was a short, brief way to describe that, why are we having another special election?
Right, so the select board put it on there for the town meeting vote. It passed, I can't remember the numbers, close to 2 to 1. And then a petition was put forward that met all the requirements by at least 70 individuals to reconsider Article 11. And so we then had to warn a special meeting, mail out ballots, and that brought us to this point.
Nick, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Jennifer?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rachel Onuf. I live over on the East Orange side of Washington, and thanks for making this a virtual as well as in-person event. I'd love to hear from one of the petitioners, if there are any people present who are in support of and advocated for this revote. I think as we heard, those of us who went to the informational session before the town meeting, and as we're hearing tonight, part of the concern is that, and in Carol's own words, how overwhelmed she is and how she doesn't even really have the tools to do bookkeeping effectively. So I'd love to hear from a petitioner what their plan is, because I'd like to think that we have consensus as a town is that the status quo cannot stay. This is not viable. We have to do something. So I'm curious what people have thought they would do if this was indeed this vote that we voted on town meeting day is overturned. Thank you.
Brooke?
My name is Brooke Page, and I'm from the town of Washington off the Courier Road there. And I was the person that originated the petition for rescission and revote. Many people, including myself and my wife, believed that there was a lack of transparency in bringing forth the first article, Article 11, the first time. There was much confusion. I subsequently heard that many people that voted in favor of it did not understand what they were voting for, and if they had, would have voted in opposition to Article 11, as it was crafted then and continues to have the same wording today. Also, I would point out that in the language that was in the town report on voting on Article 11 does not bind itself to the vote that time or the May 3rd vote. The language that was in there is merely aspirational, not binding on the select board. And I would also point out that the language that Nick read was as of the release of the town report. And at that time, some of the things that were said in here had just barely begun. The town select board had hired Sullivan and Powers, but they were in the infantile stages of trying to get a up-to-date modern computer program online with the town's data in place. And in fact, my wife Donna has been was contacted by Sullivan Powers, I think in December or January, to help out with this. And she had just retired a few months earlier and flatly didn't want to do anything for anybody. She was happy being retired. And Chad from Sullivan Powers continued to contact her. And eventually, when I got into the weeds on this thing, I begged her to do it. And she reluctantly has signed on to try to get all of this material onto the computer. What her brief experience time here, she's also noted that the QuickBooks payroll program needs to also be purchased because Carol's literally being forced to do all of the payroll, mainly for the town road committee, manually, by hand, doing all the calculations, which is like, back in the Stone Age, 50 years ago. My wife will speak for herself, I guess, but she can comment that once all of this is initiated, it should reduce Carol's workload by probably 75% or more. That suddenly, instead of having to manually write checks, the computer program will write the checks. It'll do the calculations. The members of the select board or whoever else is authorized will be able to access the computer program on their own and get all of the information and data they seek without having to ask Carol, and Carol having to forage into what in some cases is spreadsheets that she's still having to keep because the town fathers in the past chose not to give her additional help or to buy the modern program. She's still working on Excel, Word Excel, which is 30, 40 years ago. So that was the reason why I thought it was necessary, and the folks that joined in the petition agreed with me that we should overturn the Article 11 vote on town meeting day and should put it out for either rescission, meaning that it would just be dropped, or that it would be revoted at a later date, and that's where we are now. I've seen so much stuff on Facebook. Somebody was posting, oh, the reason the roads aren't getting fixed is because Carol doesn't have the books up to date, get the road bag, and all sorts of other mischief and background things that scuttlebutt, if you like, has been going around about all of this. And the real answer to all of this is that, yeah, Carol's been overwhelmed, but because she's been given a stone chisel and a slate to try to do modern accounting work on. The town select board had the right and the authority first of all, Carol had the authority to hire an assistant in her own right, but she didn't believe she had that authority, so she went to the select board several years ago and asked for some help, asked for modern programs. And there's some dispute about, well, we put the budget money in there and what exactly happened for the program, not for an assistant. But the select board then had the authority to tell her to hire an assistant to help her get caught up. And if she was instructed to do so and did not, they then had the authority after 10 or 14 days to, in their own right, hire an assistant treasurer to assist her. Now, none of that happened. Separately from that, the select board in its own right had the authority and right under the law to hire a bookkeeper or another qualified individual to do various, there's a list, I won't list it here, but list of like 8 or 9 things relating to keeping the books and all of that. And they did not hire a bookkeeper to work on behalf of the select board to do these things. And so, there's lots of blame to go around here. The auditors have not done anything effective or done anything. And matter of fact, at the last meeting, I think I was informed that the select board didn't think the auditors were qualified to do the audit activities. I mean, in all of this, the only person I can find that's blameless is probably the road commissioner. And beyond that, there's lots of blame, but everybody's so busy pointing fingers, nobody's willing to dig in and try to get things right, to fix things. We point, oh, well, we're gonna suddenly toss Carol out of the treasurer job, and we're gonna put somebody else in. My hope is that it isn't the same person that townspeople overwhelmingly voted not to make the delinquent tax collector or the treasurer, town clerk during the general election. But the thing is that what I think really all this boils down to, and in my opinion, and in the opinion of some others, is they've put the cart before the horse. That the first thing that should have been decided by the townspeople by a vote is, do we want to separate the town clerk and the treasurer office? That should have been the first vote. That could have been done on town meeting day this year. And they could have been a separate follow-up question, Article 11A, if you like, that would have then said, if it is voted that the offices are separated, do the voters wish to have that office voted on by the, filled by a vote of the town or by the appointment by the select board, okay? So we're way far away from where things should have started. They should have hired people or asked Carol if she needed assistance. If she hired somebody to provide the assistance. I grant you Sullivan and Powers was hired, but they were hired at a very late date. And my wife, along with somebody that's working in their office, represents the primary motivator to try to get the books on a computer, modern computer program, and get it up to date. At that point, many of these problems will relieve themselves or satisfy themselves. So I think whether we have the treasurer as a separate position or continue as having the treasurer and and the town clerk as one position is the first decision for the voters to make. And because of that, I think we should strongly vote against Article 11 and let the questions that should have been asked first and the assistance for Carol that should have been provided long ago be implemented and see what the results of having Sullivan and Powers and my wife get all the bookkeeping up to date so that Carol has a modern, simplified method for maintaining the books of the town. Thank you.
All right, I can speak to that because there's a lot to unpack. For the roads right now, we are not buying gravel for the roads. For the simple fact, we were informed last meeting, the first time in 9 months, that there was only $135,000 in the checking account, and we had a $325,000 bill due to the school. We didn't have money. So that's part of it. It took us 9 months to figure that out. As for years ago, you can look in the town reports, it's there. We budgeted, I believe it's $1,500 for accounting software and a computer for Carol several years ago.
Previous to 2021.
Yes, previous to 2021. You can look in the reports. I can't tell you the specific year. We got to the computer. We mentioned taking classes that were offered through the Leagues of Cities and Towns. I even mentioned taking classes at CCV in order to do Excel or QuickBooks. And she was provided the resources, but we didn't make the phone calls for her. We are separately elected. We can offer her things to do, and she can offer, ideas for us to do, but we can't force each other to do anything. And so the money was put there, the information was put there, and then from that point, we let her kind of go on her own as an elected treasurer. So yeah, so she was given the resources. And even just when I first started, Scott Blanchard and I would come down here in January and February, almost every Saturday to help her with the books. And then slowly Scott got done. I had kids and things started to get busier. I can't commit, every Saturday, January through February to help Carol with the budget. We then started not getting numbers. The town report started, the numbers in the town report specifically this year did not jive with what we were trying to budget. And so we hired Sullivan and Powers in order to the select board hired Sullivan and Powers. The Sullivan and Powers works for under the select board, because we wanted a second set of eyes on the books. I will say, we don't believe that anything is illegal or nefarious being done. I'll say that again. We don't believe anything illegal or nefarious is being done. But last year, we were under the assumption that we had a $200,000 surplus. We believed, we were told, we didn't see any numbers. We still don't have the full complete 18-month books. So regardless of whatever happens with Sullivan Powers, we still don't have complete accounting for the last 18 months prior to this fiscal year. And so the reason why we didn't go down the route of splitting the positions is because we feel that our finances are almost in a dire condition, that if we waited until after town meeting to then have a separate election to elect a treasurer, and then the select board was also concerned about who might run in the treasurer position, because as your wife has seen, the books are not in great shape. They're old, antiquated. You say she uses Excel. It's more like she just uses the grid.
Right.
She doesn't like AutoSum. That's not a thing that I've seen her use. We believe that whoever needs to do that has to give it a fresh start. We thought the Sullivan and Powers for 1 year would give the fresh start, and then somebody that can come in that's certified, the CPA or a firm that has extensive knowledge in handling finances. I mean, make no mistake, we only have a $600,000 budget. There isn't a lot there. And somebody that can handle payroll. And so we can keep kicking this can down the road, but at some point the issue needs to be addressed. And now we're looking at a budget deficit that we're just finding out about 9 months into the budget. But we don't know where specifically we're short. We don't have any of the actuals from our budget we created last year. We just don't have those numbers yet. And it's getting towards the end of the budget.
But we do know one actual, and that is the bridge. Out on West Clinton Road, that
Yes.
went over $100,000.
You get $200,000, right? Oh, well, yes,
No, it went over
Right.
budget.
right. We went over budget by $100,000. We budgeted 25,000, so this should be,
Yeah.
that's where 75 of probably the
Right.
20, yeah, 200. But yeah, like I said,
That's-
we don't
that's
believe anything
one-
nefarious
that's
is going
just
on.
one issue.
But we're also expecting money for the West Prince Road paving project, but this all came to light at our last select board meeting. And so I don't know of anybody that can operate a budget and have numbers that late in the game, especially when the school is asking for their $325,000 on May 1st.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
First,
Yeah,
Peter.
John.
Yeah, Peter Carby. My question is more philosophical than getting into the weeds. According to the Secretary of State's office, the treasurer's duties are pretty limited. And if we are going to hire or elect a treasurer or whatever, the bookkeeping function really is not part of that. So I'm assuming, and I'm using that word, assuming, that you're making plans like for a finance manager, bookkeeper, treasurer, all combined. I guess my question would be, and only because in several organizations of which I'm on the boards, we're running into the same problem. And we're running into the same money problem. And we're running into not having qualified people to do it. Do you have any idea what kind of a budget you would be looking at if you were to hire?
Well, we did budget for this year. And we kind of,
The reason,
so we budgeted $16,500.
okay, the reason I'll ask is because what we're looking at, and from the solid waste district, of which I'm on the board, and also on the regional planning commission, we're looking in the range of $55,000 to $75,000 a year. And those organizations are not a whole lot different from yours. I just, at $16,000, even at an absolute minimum of $40 an hour, what are we looking at? 400 hours over the course of the year? I don't think that's going to cut it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we budgeted basic, kind of on what Orange does. Orange has same population, they get the same amount of money in as us, our budgets are, we're very similar. And so I kind of based it on their 3-day position. We'll until we can actually have that, we can't have these discussions until after this vote gets through.
Just
Yeah.
using it from that 3 days, 24 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, 1,200
Mhm.
hours, 16 is about $12 to $13 an hour.
Nobody works for that.
Think
Yeah,
about
no,
it.
no, no.
And I'm not saying that we can't do it.
Mhm.
That isn't what I'm saying, but I'm just saying, be realistic in your plan.
And part of that was also, we knew we had that $200,000 surplus that we could dip into. Unfortunately, that might have been eaten up between the West Prince Road bridge construction and this mud season. But it still goes back to, even if you do any of this, if it doesn't go through, you still have one person in here working 60 hours a week. And I don't think that's ethical to have somebody working that many hours. We all drive by here early in the morning or late at night, and we see the town clerk treasurer's car here.
Carol would feel
Well, and
blessed if she was
I'm
on
not
board.
that most efficient with that many hours. I just, I know I slow down. I have a slow period because I'm tired. But then I have something to eat or whatever, a cup of coffee, start back up again. But yeah, I would work better if I worked 40 hours a week. But I just can't walk away from it.
Well, so that's kind of the thought with Sullivan and Powers is they can get the books in line, and then it's easier to take that step away. And because I don't know if anybody would want to inherit the books the way they were.
What are we doing about the shortfall in our budget now that we have to go this money to schools? Where are we borrowing it?
Okay,
Do we have anyone to
For
borrow it
another
from?
day.
Yeah.
That's another day.
so
Is that tomorrow?
we'll get a better sense of it after May 1st. Like I said, we had 135,000. We know we're getting in 200,000. We already did from the state.
And there's another 70.
Yeah, another 70 coming. Again, we still need to fund the town for the next 3 months because until tax money starts coming in. But we put a hold on buying gravel because we have spent over $30,000 in just materials alone on the roads for mud season, and we only intend 10,000 maybe. So we're trying to just tighten the belt right now. And, hopefully in May, we can get updated budget numbers. I mean, ideally from the select board position, monthly budget numbers would change our job or change our task greatly. But we don't know. But when we get 9 months into a budget and say, oh, you only have 135, but you have a $325,000 bill to the school. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Rebecca Duranlo. Harry, your battery's gonna die.
You better plug in.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Can you guys hear me now that we changed mics? Okay. So my name is Rebecca Duranlo, and I think there's a million various points about this. And like we said, we can kick the can down the road a million times about what could have been done differently. But like Nick said, now is the time. We're essentially out of money. And I think a lot of people who signed this petition did it for various reasons, but a lot of those reasons were because they felt they felt like Carol wanted the position and that she deserved to have the position because she's been doing it for a million years. But I think 40, but probably to you at this point, it feels like a million, Carol, since you're here for however long. I think now that we've had 3 meetings on this topic, we have come to kind of learn that Carol has said she's overwhelmed and maybe is not in a position to be doing this piece of this any longer. I'm wondering, Carol, if you might speak to the people who are here and on Zoom, because there are people who are voting against this because they don't think you want the help. And I think maybe instead of everybody else speaking for you, it's time for you to maybe say what you want, because, people are having these conversations with you and you're saying, I'm here too much, I'm tired, I need help, XYZ, all of the reasons. And I feel like there might be people who vote against this again because maybe they're not here, or they think you still really want to keep doing all of this work. So instead of everybody else speaking for you, I'd like for you to say, if you want to, if you want.
I'll try. I hadn't rehearsed this at all, so I have a lot of mixed feelings about it because I've been doing it for so long, and I'm thinking, why can't I continue? What's happening to me that I can't do what I've always done? I felt that 18-month budget kind of threw me over the edge. But I'm tired and I've been working too much. So that's part of it. I think the voters feel that they've had a right taken away from them, that they should be able to vote on their town officers and not have them appointed by a group of handful of people. I think that's the biggest thing I've heard. They don't want to lose that right to vote. I suppose they would adjust to it after a while, but it might be rough going in the meantime.
But do you want to continue doing the books and continue to be the treasurer with the current budget and the current workload that you are doing? Regardless of what the people want to be voted on or not voted on, do you want to do it? Can you? Because like we said, we've got the public records request for the taxes. We've got money that is not necessarily not accounted for, but is not in the bank because of whatever reasons. You know, learning QuickBooks is a lot. Learning a new computer program is a lot. I mean, and you have to be able to say when you need help, and you have to be able, which a lot of people are not very good at doing. And you have to learn a whole new computer system. I understand that she's been here helping you do all of that, but she's retired. She's gonna want to have summer.
Don't speak for my wife.
And, you know, are you gonna want to keep doing this for?
I don't know. I would never run. I knew I would never run for another term. Not a 3-year term, not even a 1-year term, probably. That I would be done by the end of this term. But part of it makes you feel like a failure.
Well, I don't think anybody feels that way. Carol.
Well, if you look at that book, you probably do. I don't blame you, okay? That was a scuttle that last day, right, Maxine, when we took that town report to the printers. Harry was helping and Maxine was helping, and we were looking at it, and finally they said, we've just got to go to the printers, never mind looking back, just go forward. And so we did. We got it printed, and some of it was okay. There were a couple pages that should not have been in there, but couldn't leave them out. So even if I had everything on a program, I don't know that I could keep up with it. It's a lot. It really is. So I guess one of my questions is, how is this going to work? How is it going to work? And I know you guys probably can't answer that until you know the answer to this vote. But yeah, I have no idea whether I'll be coming to work 1 day a week, 2 days a week. I'm used to coming 7. I can make the adjustment, but it's just in my mind, it's just a little hard to figure it out how we're going to have people sitting in here, where I offered to just move into the vault and let the treasurer have the office. No, seriously, I would, but.
There's plenty of space here, Carol. There's
Yeah,
plenty
but
of
there's
space here.
traffic out
You're
here.
not going
It's
into the
not that
vault.
much fun out here. So,
But so I'm kind of over here in the corner. So I'll kind of here. Hi, everybody. I'm Stacy Pullman. Live up on the Corinth Road. Lived in this town 29 years now. And so these are some of the reasons why I'm here, and I'm going to express them as clearly as I can. When I first saw Article 11 posted on Paul Beatty's front lawn, it said, lose your voice. And I thought, what is that? These are my questions. I'm still not very clear on how it's going to play itself out. There are over 270 something people in this town who voted for Carol to be in this office for a 3-year term. So the people in Washington have made themselves very clear. Whether there's misinformation or social media or whatnot, set it all aside. In this town, we have people who pay tax, people who do not. We have people who pitch in and people who do not. To me, the biggest piece, and poor Nick and the road crew, I've had enough of the mud trucks. I've had enough of the mud season that's been 9 weeks, but I've also had enough of the misinformation. If Carol is working so many hours that she is here as much as she is, God help us when she's not here. Let's get it cleaned up, move forward, and figure out what is happening. There's nothing nefarious. There's no money missing. There's money places that it shouldn't be or whatnot. To me, I want to be able to understand moving forward what's happening. Hence me being here now. Is this my 4th meeting? Carol Davis is a treasure in her own. There are some issues that need to be simplified. I think Article 11 gives us the opportunity to kind of move forward and figure it out. But with that being said, keep in mind that more than a vast majority of the people in this town want to see her as town clerk. With that being said, there's also that group that want this figured out. So there are some pretty prevalent names here. We've all been residents for a long time. With that being said, it's not up to me to tell you whether I'm going to vote for it or not for it. Look at all the information you have in front of you and make the decision that sits best with you. For me, I'd like to see Carol here a little less and have the help she needs. Whether it was asked for or not, whether it was put in front of her or not, does not matter at this point. What matters at this point is that taxes get paid, the town has a budget, and it's on time and it's correct. Carol Davis is a treasure. I'll say it again. She's devoted 40 years of her life to this town. Let's make the right decisions, move forward, and find a solution. And Carol Davis, you will not be in the vault.
No,
She will be in your office. There'll be someone helping you, but you will not be in your vault.
I look at mine, really, Stacy.
Like, hopefully, everybody understood that.
Anybody else before you? You already spoke.
Well, I can
Anybody
just,
else want to say anything?
can I just add some stuff to that?
Yes.
So, yeah, so just to add to that with helping Carol is we started, and Harry can correct me, 7 or 8 years ago, you started as assistant town clerk
Yeah.
on 1 day a week.
Yeah.
And now then it was 2, then 3, and I'm pretty sure you're a full-time employee right now. So we have been, putting help here in the office. Yeah, and I'll reiterate, what Stacy said. Carol is one of the nicest people I've ever met, and however this, if this does pass, you would still be town clerk. And like I said, I base it off Orange. That's 40 to 45 hours a week, and that's enough hours. I feel, for me, that's enough hours to work. I don't know how others feel, but I mean, we all know for a small town of only 1,000 people, there's plenty of work to be done. And so all we're trying to do is just take that one burden off from you and let you go home, at 6 o'clock instead of 10. We do have.
Go ahead,
somebody up. We have somebody up.
Oh,
Hand
there you go.
up. We have a hand up.
Where?
Who that is.
It's somebody on the phone.
It's Danielle Foster.
Hi, Danielle. We're going to turn you up just a little bit.
Okay,
Can
go
you
ahead.
hear me all right? I just wanted to say I do believe Carol is a treasure, and I think that it's important for people to hear that she's not losing her job or the job is being taken away. It sounds like it's just going to be the amount of demand on her is less, but she's still going to have a job. And I think that's very important for everybody to know, and everybody who loves Carol, because that maybe hasn't been super clear, and a concern that maybe she would lose her job or be replaced. And it would be nice when she's, if she's done and she doesn't want to do it anymore, then that's great. But I think that it's important that people know that it sounds like she's not going to lose her job. It's just going to be less responsibility that she has to do. That's all I had.
Okay, first of all, Carol will be losing her job as treasurer and the money that goes along with that. Okay.
That we have not said that.
Are you willing to say that that will not happen?
haven't said that.
Okay, well, that's her concern, or one of them.
Right.
And I would point out, and I know she prefer I don't mention this, is that she should have been involved from almost her entire career here in the retirement program that the road crew has. Matter of fact, it's in the statutes that all employees are to be participating in, Carol, what's the
Beamers.
identifying letters?
Beamers.
And that the town would have been giving a larger share of contributions than she would have contributed. And at this point, she'd have full retirement. But selectmen, long before you folks, did not offer that to her. And I don't know, I guess she didn't understand that she had the right to demand that. So now she's 40 years beyond, and the town has probably saved itself upwards of $100,000 in contributions. You know, and I mean, it breaks my heart to hear her tell me that she's, you know, well, if I have to leave here, I'm gonna have to sell the family farm to be able to get by. I mean, she's, you know, she said that to me, and I feel bad for even having to bring it up, but you know, these are issues. Yes, she will be losing the treasurer's job. And we're not, by her retaining the treasurer's job, we would not be kicking the can down the road. And I'm gonna finally force my wife to get up and explain what the successful work on Sullivan and Powers and getting Carol fully up on the computer, how that would affect Carol's job. Please, Donna.
All I do is, she just needs it on the computer. She just puts a check in and it will get posted instantly to the account it's assigned to her. And then you can run a P&L anytime from that program. Get the payroll set up also, so it does all the 940 employment reports and everything like that, instead of her trying to remember, oh, I have to do that report, go into some spreadsheets that I assume she's keeping with everybody's pay, which I hope so. I haven't seen that yet. And then that would handle that, and that would cut down a lot of what she's doing, because her problem is she puts off doing the spreadsheets at the time she's doing the work. And it's like at the end of the year, I think that's what happened with the 18 months. She waits until the end of the year to start entering things on a spreadsheet. And the 18 months was same thing. And it was just overwhelmed that she had 18 months she had to do whenever she decided at the end of the time. She didn't do it monthly, which is the least amount she should have been working and keeping the spreadsheets up. So she just kept putting the spreadsheets off. Sometimes I think she's probably putting off the payroll spreadsheets off. I don't know. I haven't seen that. But if she kept that up to date, it would have been a little easier. But with the program, if she just processes everything, checks everything through the program, it will automatically do that for her. And it will cut down her time. How much, I really don't know.
Anyway.
I'd like to speak now.
Well, no, I'm reclaiming the rest of my time that my wife did. The other thing that I have that's important to me is in this thing that was published in the town report, it was said that you were going to hire a CPA firm or a certified individual. The word certified individual are not a term of art in the accounting field. Here tonight, you said that we would either hire an accounting firm or a CPA. Is that what you're telling me? You think that a certified individual is, that in fact you meant to say certified public accountant?
I believe certified is in certified public accountant.
No, it's not what it says. It says certified individual. That means nothing in accounting.
Okay,
Person needs to be qualified to
yeah,
do the job.
we're arguing the terms on that.
Right.
But
And none of
well,
this
okay,
really
well,
is involved.
yeah.
you know.
So yeah, being an informational meeting, yes, somebody that is certified public accountant that has experience in handling a $600,000 budget, and along with all the payroll that has to go along with it, along with report the delinquent tax portion as well, which the treasurer is required to report within 15 days.
All right, thank you. You know, my final thought is that there needs to be enough time to see if the Sullivan and Powers work and what my wife's doing resolves the issues that are involved here and get the books up to date. If that happens, and that's a question, I understand that, then all of this is unnecessary. You know, and as Nick and I talked at the front end, the first thing we should do is figure out whether the voters of the town wish to continue to have an elected treasurer. Okay, and part of the campaign to be treasurer would be whether you're qualified or not. You know, and you know, I mean, I find it concerning that the select board now wants to be appointing the treasurer. Next year, there's, you know, this thing we're doing section F of this statute. Section E is the select board starts to appoint the town clerk. I mean, is that the next step here?
I think you're going way down a rabbit hole that,
Section-
yeah, well, right.
Section E.
I mean, right. But that would all happen with a vote. We could propose whatever we want and whether the voters say
As you
up or,
have here.
what's that? So,
As you have here.
yes, correct, because we think that the treasurer position should be someone with extensive knowledge of budgeting. I mean, we're looking at the same issue with the auditors. The voters put in 3 auditors that have very little experience in doing audits. And so now we're looking at a $25,000 to $30,000 bill to have a full audit done. Like you elected us 3 to make sure the town runs, and we're telling you with the way the treasurer's being run now, I would just say, well, it's not. We're trying to fix it. We feel like the Sullivan and Powers hiring, and by allowing us to appoint somebody, will alleviate a lot of problems and a lot of questions that people in town have. Now, to Donna's point about she doesn't know how many hours might free up Carol. She's working 60 hours. Are we talking?
She's not working 60 hours. I'll tell you that. She's working 90.
Okay, well, even more to my point,
I'm
bro.
just saying.
Even more to my point. What would that even save her? Geez, if you say even save her 30 hours, she's still here 60 hours a week. We're saying that the town clerk / treasurer position is too much for one person. And I think the example in Orange fits us perfectly. A treasurer that works 3 days a week and a town clerk that works 40 to 45 hours. We think we think we should go after that model as well. Now, however the vote comes out, if you want to change it to petition that you elect a treasurer, absolutely. Voters have the power to do that. But we're telling you right now that the finances are in such rough shape that we feel like hiring somebody out to get them in line and move forward is the best way for the town.
But the finances are independent of the bookkeeping. You know, we may be in fine financial shape, but the books are so solid that we're unaware of our blessings.
Well, we don't know either one.
We're not. We're not. Of course. But at this point, it strikes me as the most important thing is let's get the books cut up, and we're doing yeoman's work here, I understand, on getting to that. The only the element of this that really hasn't been addressed yet is Sullivan and Powers has to be authorized to go ahead and get the QuickBooks payroll function, so you can get all of this mischief with the payroll, not mischief, but all of the confusion with the payroll caught up. And that's, you know, all of these things that suddenly will turn from hour after hour of work to, you know, 15 or 20 minutes worth of work. And my thing is vote no here. Let's see how it's going. And we can all, with, you know, more reserved time, talk about whether or not we want the position to be appointed or elected. That's all.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Brooke, if it continues, you probably will have to vote in a whole new select board.
Right.
We're out of time. We got
Yeah.
bills we can't pay right now.
Yeah, I have an idea. So it's Stacy Poole again. I have to ask this question. So Nick, AJ, Fred, when we were at the last meeting, wasn't there talk of QuickBooks being put in? So was that a nay or a yay? Did we do it? Did we not do it? It sounds to me, Brooke, saying that Sullivan and Powers needs permission to do that. Is that not taking place? Are we just entering stuff or not entering stuff?
No.
What's happening?
QuickBooks is in process.
Okay, so QuickBooks is in process.
Yes, it's just they have
So
to
it's
add
not
the
like-
payroll module
Okay,
to add it onto it.
so is there permissions to do that? Is that,
don't
am
know
I
if they
hearing
need
this
permission.
right?
I didn't think they needed permission.
Okay, so
I
no
don't
permissions.
yeah,
are
I don't think so.
needed.
Yeah.
I just, I want to be able to understand that.
There, isn't it?
So at the last meeting, I was under the impression that it was gonna take place and it was gonna start being entered. And I didn't want to misunderstand that piece. That's why I spoke up. We gotta move forward.
Yeah,
We gotta move forward.
and since town meeting, we've just kind of been treading water because we have to deal with this petition and put it out to vote. And we have to get this resolved before we can begin to even have a discussion about moving forward.
I do want to say that I appreciate the work, Donna, that you're doing. You know, as taxpayers, we're paying duplicate. We're paying Sullivan and Powers to a duplicate set of books. We're paying Donna to enter QuickBooks. We're paying Harry more time to be assistant. And we still have a town clerk who's working 60 hours a week. Okay, hello, people. I also want to say that you cannot run town finances with Excel, but you really can't run town finances with Excel and a adding machine. Carol, I'm not disparaging you, but Carol does not understand the functions of Excel. I don't mean to be rude or disrespectful, but I don't have confidence that she's going to learn and be proficient in QuickBooks. It's a new software program. It takes a lot to learn a new software program and be proficient with it. If you can't understand Excel, then I don't know how you can understand QuickBooks. So yes, we are moving forward, but we need to vote. We need to have a different treasurer. We need to separate these positions and we need to move forward. We need to relieve the pressure of the work on Carol so she can be town clerk. And, you know, please just vote yes.
Or otherwise.
So this is just a little side comment, but until Y2K, I had a computer system. But it crashed on Y2K. People were saying that it's going to crash, it's going to crash. And I thought, no, it'll still be there. And it wasn't, it was gone. And so since Y2K, I've been limping along, but yeah, I did have a system. Wasn't as probably as good as QuickBooks are now, but it worked.
Linda had her hand up.
Go ahead. Is the problem with the taxpayers, I think some of this is, in my mind, I think this is some of the problem. People don't want to lose control. So if they're saying, or whoever is voting that way, is saying that if we give the select board the right to choose a treasurer, then we've lost control forever. Could it be worded differently that we would do this temporarily? Because you all know how Vermont people are. They don't want to lose control. They want to run their own stuff. So it sounds to me like one of the big problems is that a lot of people are feeling like, who cares? We just don't want to lose control. We're going to do the voting. And if that's the issue, I mean, we all know that she needs help. And I'm sure she's in agreement that we could have a treasurer for now. And like you say, the Orange, the program in Orange works fine for them. Well, it probably will work fine for us. But we're all afraid to try it by the sound, and there's people that are going to say, I want the chance to vote. So where are we? How far are we going to go with this? I mean, we know we need someone else.
So, all right, and it's a legitimate concern. You know, we haven't had town meeting in 2 years, and I'm a traditionalist too, and can't wait to have the next town meeting. The problem is that we think that at this point, it just needs to be somebody that with knowledge of QuickBooks, with experience in doing payroll, in doing accounts receivable, all that stuff. And the state is not making anything, and Carol can vouch for this, is not making any easier on our clerks and treasurers or even select boards. Every year it's more and more. And having somebody in there that's up to date on that and doesn't get behind, I think is a valuable thing. And even though you lose your ability to elect, you can always petition, at before the next town meeting to do it elected. Like once it's gone, it's not totally gone. You can always vote to
Well, I
have it
think
back.
that's what a lot of people are thinking. Once it's gone, it's
Mhm.
gone. They've lost their right to vote.
Yep.
But, I mean, she needs help.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we totally agree with all that. We just, even if we give all the help of QuickBooks with the payroll, is, are we still talking how many hours a week? I mean, like, I just keep going back to the orange model because they're doing it and it's functioning and it's still a lot of work, but it has to be divided up between two people and not, put all on one
And the
person.
state will continue to want more and more and more.
Mhm.
Nobody's asked Harry how he feels, because he's right in the middle of this.
How do you feel,
He's
Harry?
retired, he had plans, and now he probably feels like he needs to be here more.
Yep. Retired 13 years ago, and I think I work more now than I did when I was working. Yeah, I don't want to put more time into what I am. Being lister and here, there's at least 2 days a week I don't get home
Lee
before
has
6
his hand
o'clock.
up. Lee keeps putting his hand up, I think. Would you ask Lee if he would like to speak?
Lee, do you have a question?
Can we finish hearing what Harry had to say?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please?
Yeah, I'm
Oh.
done. Yeah, go ahead.
Lee, did you have a question? Oh, I think-
No.
okay.
Oh,
Go ahead, Peter.
I'm sorry, I thought, I was waiting for Lee. I guess, the meeting, I think, is degrading a little bit. And where I'm having a problem right now is the threat of the select board threatening to all quit. As a voter, I don't like threats. And I mean, I understand your frustration, but I'm not sure that threatening the entire select board to quit is the route to go. And if we can raise that discussion back up a little bit out of the lower end and go high.
Yeah, and of course, it's totally out of frustration, especially in the last couple of months, between one of the worst mud seasons we've ever had. I was getting at least a dozen phone calls a day, plus having to navigate through this on the phone with leagues of cities and towns, hours a week. It's been a rough couple of months for the select board trying to navigate this. And not only that, then, hearing all the comments out in the community, how, we're not doing our job. And also the other side of it, we're hearing that we're just trying to kick Carol out of the position because we want to get somebody else in there, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I think the budget that was presented last year speaks volumes on why we're just trying to get by here. But, when we're just trying to keep going, but we just hear the continuous banter of people that say that we're just trying to be, mean to Carol. It eats on us. And so while that was probably a poor choice of words,
That's all I was saying.
it's been a struggle. And I feel bad for AJ, who this is his third meeting and he's been.
I didn't have anything to do with writing Article 11, but I support it and you need to do something because time's running out.
I think you have, I think somebody chatted you.
Yeah, I saw that.
Brooke? I'd like to point out that regardless of whether Article 11 is voted up or voted down, the select board and Carol still have every right and authority to hire an assistant town treasurer to help her do this work, either before Sullivan Towers is done or after they've got everything up on the computer. Carol, has the best interest of this town at heart. And I think that, tossing her in the capacity of treasurer to the street isn't the solution to this. I think having a qualified individual come in to work under her or with her is the ideal situation. And that we look next year to decide whether or not we want the town clerk and treasurer to continue to be one position or have it separated in two positions, and at the same time decide if it's separated into two, whether it's an elected or appointed position. Okay, one other thing I want to point, everybody has talked so much about the budget and town report. I just found out the other day that Berrytown just successfully got their 2020 town report published. Another thing I found in talking to several of the other towns around, it's not unusual. I think our total delinquent taxes are what, around 10% of the total taxes? Okay. Okay, well, in any case.
We don't
that-
really know.
What's that?
That's this year. What
That's
about
this year.
last year and the year before?
Well,
and
but
the year
it's
before
like,
that?
it's the same money you keep looking at. I understand that.
The can just got kicked and it's still full money. I just went down the road a little bit further and got more money.
Maybe it's full of money, maybe it needs to go off the sheriff's sale. But
Should.
that 10% figure is not unusual for a lot of towns around. So we're not in some disproportionate position to other towns. In any case, that's all.
But you know, like I said to your point, 10% is $300,000. And when we operate, you know, a $600,000 budget, that's half. Brooke,
Or have a.
like, could you, like we get concerned about half the town's income gets wiped away in delinquent taxes. And we don't know how much, and we don't know when it's going to get collected.
If it
So-
gets collected.
Well, yeah,
it could be
when-
blood from a stone.
Well, correct. And so, but the problem is if we at least knew those numbers, we could develop budgets in the future on how to deal with that. Maybe budget for delinquent taxes, as much as terrible as that sounds, taxing people because people don't pay their taxes.
And I believe that within a reasonable amount of time, certainly before the end of the fiscal year, in what, July or June,
Mhm.
that those numbers will be apparent.
I know,
But
but
they should be apparent now. I made a public records request 6 weeks ago and still don't have that information. So they should be apparent now. That's the job. The information should be readily available and it should be
And there's
apparent.
Plenty of blame to go.
I'm not
around.
blaming anybody. I'm just
Okay,
stating a
all right.
fact. As a taxpayer, it's not unreasonable for me to be concerned that we don't have any information about delinquent taxes. What's delinquent, what's been collected for several years. That's a concern. It's a legitimate concern as a taxpayer. That money is part of the budget. It's part of the money that I pay as a taxpayer. I'm paying extra money for Sullivan Powers. I'm paying extra money for Donna, paying extra money for Harry.
By the way, Donna volunteered to do this for free.
Well, wonderful. Thank you very much. But, you know, I mean, I think we've beat this horse to death.
Okay, and so we'll have a vote and we'll see what happens.
I just want to remind everybody one thing. I know we don't have the up-to-date tax numbers, but for the last 2 years, you haven't been able to go after people that were delinquent because of
Thank
the
you,
state of emergency type of thing with the COVID. And you couldn't do anything about it, really.
right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's not saying we shouldn't have numbers. We can
Mhm.
still have numbers, but
Yeah.
we were not able to go after delinquent taxpayers.
I'm gonna bring pepperoni pizza, so.
So
Town of Berkshire has no delinquent taxes.
Okay.
The town of Berkshire has no delinquent taxes.
Okay.
Neither does Cabot and neither does Plainfield.
Okay.
And there's a pretty good list out there, Brooke.
All right.
We could be one of them towns, but it would be really nice.
It would be.
I just have one more thing to say, if I could, before I'm done talking about this for hopefully the rest of the year. We keep, it keeps getting said that we could hire this person to help and we can do this to help and blah, blah, blah. And I just feel like it would be great if we had one person who was capable to do this job that we paid to do this job. We're paying a treasurer, we're paying Sullivan and Powers to do the books so that the select board will have an actual budget at some point to know how much money is in the bank. And now we're talking about how Carol could hire an assistant to help her in addition. We're already talking about how we don't have enough money as of May 1st, quite possibly, to pay for half of the budget, much less add 2 other people to help Carol do her job. We don't need more assistance to help Carol do her job. We need it to be a separate job so that Carol can be a town clerk and have her job and still be here. And then have a treasurer, one person that we pay, that the select board has faith in to do their job, not an additional person, and then a whole accounting firm to come in behind that person. That seems unnecessary and extravagant. Once you start hiring people to do other people's jobs, that job needs to be done by somebody else for various reasons.
Right.
You got one
Right.
over there.
Ray McCormick, I agree with Rebecca. To a point. I don't, what really bothers me is I didn't get a chance to vote. If you were running against other people that knew that the job was open, that would have satisfied me. I would have been able to weigh and decide who I wanted to vote for. But I'm just, I don't want this to turn into a Biden episode. We don't need that kind of crap anymore. We just want to, I would like to see the best person doing the job. And I think Carol's kind of tired of it, just that portion of it. And I think you'd be happier if you just, you run the town great. But I think you need help with it. Treasurer.
And I have been getting a little tired of it in the last year. I hadn't felt that way for almost 40 years. It's what I do, and I didn't mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's getting old. It is.
Yeah, that's all I have to say. I just would be happier if I had a chance to vote.
Did you get a ballot for this one? Did you get a ballot for this vote?
Enjoy the
Okay.
evening.
All right.
Please stay positive, people.
Peter? Yeah, just a quick question. In the time from town meeting until the petition, whatever came through, did you have the opportunity to do any interviewing for the position or?
No, because we had, I gotta remember, we had town meeting and then probably 7 days later, we had a scheduled select board meeting. And just prior to the beginning of that select board meeting, we got handed the petition, or Harry gave me the petition that he got from.
Okay, no, I
Yeah,
didn't
so
know
no,
if it
there was,
on time.
nope, the discussion was going to start with the March and April meeting. And yeah, once that petition came in and
Petition was filed, had 30 days to be put in. And I worked real hard to get it in 7, so you wouldn't unnecessarily start doing other work that would be derailed by the petition. I knew I had the petition, and I think we only needed 40 signatures. When I had 70 by that following Monday, I figured that was sufficient, and I turned it in right away by certified mail and hand delivery, so you folks wouldn't be doing unnecessary work. Thank you.
oh, we got one.
You could make the motion if you like.
Hang on, I think we got one.
Oh, somebody else's.
Oh.
Hold on. David, do you have a question?
Yeah, it's actually David's mom.
Oh,
Andrea
okay.
Coleman. I guess he used my Zoom session last.
All right.
I guess for folks that think that if we hire an outside firm, we're losing control. My feeling right now is we've lost control. We don't have a good idea of what's on our books. There's a lot of cleanup to do. And honestly, I hate to see poor Carol working all these hours. She has worked diligently and given her heart and soul to this town. And she's earned the right to not have to work 60 and 90 hours a week. And as far as, hiring an outside firm, a qualified firm, that's why those firms are out there. Many companies and towns are hiring these firms because they're the experts and they can get our books cleaned up. They can get us on the right track. I think that's a good investment. And I in no way think that Carol is a failure for, not doing the treasurer job. Carol deserves to take a break. And with her town clerk work, she will certainly have plenty of work to do. and continued interaction with town folks. And the other thing that is concerning to me is, say next year, Carol says, you know, she would only possibly want to do it for this last year. Then where do we go? You know, do we just, if it's an elected position, it has to be someone in town, and it's probably not going to be a CPA. It's not going to be someone who is qualified and can come in and know all the complexities and everything that has to be done. So I, you know, support this, this article. And I believe it's in the best interest of the town, in the best interest of Carol, and in our best interest moving forward into the future. Thank you.
I knew that I would not go through the 3-year term as treasurer. I knew I would give people plenty of notice that I would not be running again and look into who maybe would be running or how it was going to be handled. But if I was reelected treasurer, okay, so
Which you were.
I was, but I knew I would not keep it for 3 years, Brooke. I'm sorry. I appreciate your faith in me, but so as far as the other jobs go, you know, actually, they're both 1 year. No, the town clerk is 3 years, but the delinquent tax collector is 1 year. So
And that's not part of tonight's discussion.
no, but just because kind of talked about it, I don't know for sure that I would not run for either of those. But I knew that I did not want treasurer for another 3 years. Can't do it.
A motion that we close the meeting.
I'll second it.
So quiet.
Brooke made her do it.
Just check nobody else's.
All right, we have a motion to close the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Guys appear to have it. The ayes do have it. This meeting is closed.
Thank you.
You did your part well, Harry. See you all on.
I think everybody did quite well. Yeah, it was a good meeting.